Karrigan, the in-game leader of Mousesports, is one of the most experienced and respected IGLs in the history of Counter-Strike. But next to his ability to call strats and coordinate his teammates at the highest level of CS, he also brings his own personal contribution that often consists of very aggressive pushes and somewhat unorthodox movement. So instead of looking at his role as an in-game leader, we'll change our focus and have a closer look at Karrigan's individual playstyle. More specifically, we'll analyze why and how he sometimes changes up his individual pace to rush into certain positions using a high risk, high reward mentality. To narrow down the analysis, I've chosen to use his T-side on train as the example environment for this video, since this is the map that Mousesports are currently most comfortable on, first picking it into any opponent with 15 wins out of 18 maps played in the last 6 months. Round 11 against Astralis is a perfect example of how Karrigan's aggressive playstyle can open up and even win rounds in situations where they really shouldn't be winning. Due to losing the previous 4 rounds, Mousesports is forced to eco and has very limited firepower to work with in this round. However, this is where Karrigan thrives. We see him rush out of A main using his utility to then get all the way into hell where he gets an entry onto Glaive. He then uses his positioning to get an easy frag onto Dupree, before finishing off the triple and also the round with a frag onto Majisk. It might seem like a crazy round where he got some lucky timings to win the duels, however, let's analyze it a bit more deeply and see why the things went down the way they did. We can see that instead of going for the traditional pistol plus Kevlar investment during this eco, Karrigan decides to invest in a CZ, a smoke, a Molotov and a high explosive nade. This gives his team some utility to work with and allows his star players to invest in Kevlar and Deagles. However, as we saw before, this doesn't take away the chance of Karrigan popping off and winning the round by himself. It starts off with a smoke that he likes to use in A main to smoke off the Molotov that would prevent him to push. He then instantly uses his own Molotov for behind the green train, followed up with a high explosive nade. Glaive, who wanted to play from this position, decides to use his smoke to extinguish Karrigan's Molotov. However, due to the time it takes to pull out the smoke, Karrigan can already get into hell and now has the better angle over Glaive due to the distance that he has to the corner. He wins the aim duel against Glaive with a swift CZ headshot, and this allows him to pick up that M4 that he then uses to eliminate Dupree, who was playing at E-box. After the Ivy smoke disappears, Majisk misses a shot, giving Karrigan the chance to take him down and win the round for Mousesports. Well yes, to some extent this round had some luck involved and this is something that can't always be reproduced. However, Karrigan seems to have the sequence of events planned out and practiced beforehand. In round 36 we see once again the same combo of nades coming in, suggesting that this is something that Karrigan uses more often and therefore has a clear plan of what's going to happen next. Alright, once again a lot of information in just a very short amount of time, but that's also why this aggressive push from Karrigan worked out the way it did. If this is already a lot of information to analyze in a video, imagine what Astralis players must be thinking during the heat of battle in such a quick round. Alright, step by step breakdown. Karrigan at the time he enters A main has a smoke ready for quick deployment. This followed up with a Molotov and a nade combination that would prevent any defenders to peek from behind the green train. At the same time, Woxic uses this smoke in the beginning of the round to give cover for when Karrigan arrives in Sandwich. As you can see, this perfectly counters Majisk, who had the idea to go and play from the Sandwich or behind red train position. While keeping an eye on the smoke, Karrigan then makes his way to the other side of the red train, where he spots Glaive inside Popdog and easily takes him down. For Astralis' point of view, this play was very hard to predict since it was done so fast and also due to the contact that was spotted towards the holes of B. This entry on Glaive had a huge impact however, because once Glaive goes down, all Astralis members react with a rotation towards the A side. This gives Woxic the opportunity to get a frag onto Dupree, while the other 2 Mousesports players have a very easy time to get onto the B side and plant the bomb. At this point in the round, Astralis has already committed all of their forces towards A, making it a nearly impossible situation to retake. A lot of the credit for this round win, that kept him in the game and sent him to a second overtime, goes to the entry that Karrigan achieved onto Glaive, and the chaos he created with his presence towards A. However, as you might expect, this high risk, high reward mentality that Karrigan uses does not always pay off. Instead, these aggressive rushes will sometimes result in him dying really quickly and not contributing anything to the team. In round 15, we see him once again use the same Molotov and nade combination for behind the green train. However, this time his rush gets stopped early because he gets killed by Majisk, who pushed into Sandwich with an AWP. This is the downside of the aggressive playstyle that Karrigan often likes to use, Even though he sometimes wins the round for Mousesports single-handedly by getting into these unexpected positions early on, in some other rounds he tries to make a play that is not as calculated and gives his team a big disadvantage by putting them in a 4v5 situation from the start. This is also shown in round 21 against Evil Geniuses. Going for a default setup across the map, Mousesports is waiting for a mistake of their opponents. However, Karrigan decides to push aggressively, peeking down onto the B side from Catwalk without any backup from his teammates. Once he gets contact with Stanislaw, who was defending the side, he decides to jump down and go for the duel. Unfortunately for Karrigan, he loses the fight and puts his team in an early 4v5 disadvantage. This is probably a bit of an overambitious move, because even when he would have won the fight against Stanislaw, his teammates still weren't anywhere close to take advantage of this open bomb site at B. Instead, due to Karrigan's early death, Stanislaw now has the opportunity to go for an aggressive push in holes, and ends up behind Robs, giving Stan an easy frag. In this particular round, a more passive approach by Karrigan might have given them a better chance of winning, because if Karrigan would have survived longer, he would have been able to protect Robs from getting flanked, and it would have given his other teammates more time to get an opening frags across the map. Another example of a bit of a misplay from Karrigan is in round 26 of that same match. Once again we see the default set of smokes coming in from Mousesports, one for Sandwich and one for E-Box. This allows Karrigan to get out of A main safely and take a strong position behind the red train. However, Karrigan wants more out of this situation and decides to wide peek the A side. This is instantly punished by Stanislaw, who is holding the angle with an AWP. And pausing the round in this moment, we see that Frozen and Voxic were blocked by a smoke in Ivy, Chris J was behind the smoke in main, and Robs was still at the stairs towards the brown holes. Therefore, there was not really any possibility for a follow-up by any of Karrigan's teammates, making this aggressive peek towards the A side completely unnecessary. So first we saw the aggressive pushes using the smoke, molotov and nade combination to get some early entry frags that won them the round. After that we saw some examples of situations where this high risk playstyle does not work out and even puts his teammates in a more difficult situation to win the round. But let's analyze one more round in which Karrigan completely surprises his enemies on all levels and carries his team to the round victory. Round 27 against Evil Geniuses, Mousesports are ahead 14-12 and have all the money they could ask for. On the other side of the map, Evil Geniuses just lost 2 rounds in a row, which makes it a somewhat compromised buy for them, forcing Tarek and Stanislaw to play with less than ideal weapons. Once again, after coming out of spawn, Karrigan uses the 3 nades that we've seen him use many times in this video, to make his way into Olive and Sandwich. We see that by the time he arrives in Sandwich, the smoke that was thrown by Chris J has already landed. Instead of continuing straight to the back of Green Train, this time, he opts to play a bit more patiently, which gives him the frag onto Tarek, who was not expecting anyone to be pushed up into Sandwich already. At the time that Karrigan gets the frag onto Tarek, the call comes in and both Frozen, Voxic and Robs threw their smokes for an execute towards the A side. Frozen smoke lands on top of the A bomb side, Voxic smoke lands between the side and connector, and Rob's smoke lands inside the Ivy entrance. This Ivy smoke that was thrown by Robs gives Karrigan the perfect cover to push towards the sub sign from hell. From this position he can now get into the old bomb train area and even flank Cirque, who is still inside Ivy. Not only did he get the first entry frag followed up with the backstep onto Cirque, he also managed to get into an unusual position that together with his other teammates creates a crossfire towards connector, making it a very difficult situation for Stanislaw to rotate. This ultimately gives them the round win and also drains Evil Geniuses' money enough for the next round, which leads to Mousesport winning the map. Karrigan is often praised for his intelligent strategies, his ability to read his opponents and counter it, and even his ability to develop young up-and-coming players into real star players within a matter of months. But next to all these traits, he also comes with a unique individual playstyle that often involves a high-risk, high-reward approach, and his individual and selfless performance is often used to open up the map and give his star players the room to work with that they can then use to finish off the job. That's all for this video. It was a fun time to look into Karrigan's playstyle on Mousesports' favorite map. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.